So this is the week where all of the MLB awards are coming out, so I wanted to give you guys my predictions on who I think is going to win the 2019 Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, Cy Young, MVP for both leagues. I wanted to give you guys my predictions, and you guys in the comments can let me know whether you disagree with me or not, so feel free to sound off down there. Remember, these are just my opinions, so if you disagree, that's totally okay, but let me know why you disagree down in the comments. If you enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to do more MLB videos like this throughout the offseason, so let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start it off with National League Rookie of the Year. The three finalists for National League Rookie of the Year would be Pete Alonso from the New York Mets, Mike Soroka from the Atlanta Braves, and Fernando Tatis Jr. from the San Diego Padres. Now, while all three of these guys had really good seasons, for me, this one is honestly pretty easy, I would say. Pete Alonso, I think, has to get this award. He hit 53 home runs. He has the rookie home run record, beating out Aaron Judge for his 2017 season. I think Aaron Judge definitely had the better overall year, but regardless, Pete Alonso, when you set the rookie home run record, you kind of win that award by default. Now, you could argue that maybe Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be a better player, or Mike Soroka is going to be an ace coming up here. All that stuff is perfectly fair arguments, but I think this season alone, the fact that he set the record, he had a 5 WAR, 30 doubles to go along with those 53 home runs, he had an OPS of 941. This one's got to go to Pete Alonso, in my opinion. Now let's move it over to the American League Rookie of the Year, where these finalists are going to be Yordan Alvarez from the Houston Astros, Brandon Lau from the Tampa Bay Rays, and John Means from the Baltimore Orioles. It's nice that the Orioles have something to cheer about. They got to be rooting for their boy John Means to try to get this Rookie of the Year. And Brandon Lau definitely had a pretty solid year for the Tampa Bay Rays as well, but I think this one is obvious. Yordan Alvarez is the AL Rookie of the Year. The dude hit 297 with a 592 slugging, a 979 OPS, 24 home runs in 333 at-bats. The dude had 47 walks to go along with those as well. 24 doubles. I'm pretty sure he set the Astros rookie record for home runs. Yordan just basically came onto the scene and blew everybody away with his hitting. So this dude has to win the AL Rookie of the Year. It's pretty much a runaway victory in my opinion. I don't really care about what he did in the playoffs. The playoffs have no impact on these regular season awards. So with that being said, Yordan, I think, is definitely the AL Rookie of the Year. So now we're going to go ahead and move into the Manager of the Year category. We started with the National League for Rookie of the Year, so we're going to start with the American League for this one. The three finalists are going to be Rocco Baldelli from the Minnesota Twins, Aaron Boone from the New York Yankees, and Kevin Cash from the Tampa Bay Rays. This one is really hard for me. There's two guys that I could be swayed on either way. I really don't have like a set opinion on who I think should win. I think they both deserve a lot of credit. Rocco Baldelli, while the Minnesota Twins had a very impressive season, you got to give him some respect. I think that division was kind of ripe for the taking because that's been the weakest division in baseball for a little bit now. The Cleveland Indians have kind of controlled that division. It was only a matter of time before somebody stepped up, and the Minnesota Twins definitely did that, so you got to give credit to Rocco Baldelli and that organization. But I think this comes down to Boone versus Cash, because Aaron Boone led the Yankees to a division championship, and a lot of people had them winning the division, and a lot of people had them as the favorite to go to the World Series coming out of the American League from the beginning of the year. The issue there is that the lineup that people thought would take the Yankees to the World Series is not the lineup that they saw for most of the year. There were a lot of injuries. A lot of young guys had to come up and make big impacts. Gleyber Torres is only 22 years old. Mike Tauchman, like all these dudes really played well, and you got to give Aaron Boone a lot of credit for managing through the obstacles that he had come up and still win that division very convincingly. I think the other side of things is the fact that Kevin Cash on the Tampa Bay Rays, Blake Snell did not pitch as well. They were going into a really tough division with the Yankees, who we're just talking about right now, the Boston Red Sox coming off of their 2018 World Series championship. Obviously, they underperformed, but going into the season, they were supposed to be a lot better. When you manage in that division and still win the amount of games that they did, and his managing style, changing things around and doing some progressive things, there's a strong case to be made for him as well. I don't know, if I had to choose, it would probably be Aaron Boone, just because of the way he had to maneuver all those injuries and the way he had to kind of go through that terrain. But once again, you could convince me totally that it could be Kevin Cash. This one's really, really hard for me to pick, but I think I gotta go with Aaron Boone. For the National League Manager of the Year, this one is gonna be Craig Counsell from the Milwaukee Brewers, Mike Shildt from the St. Louis Cardinals, and Brian Snitker from the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, there's cases to be made for all three of these guys, otherwise they wouldn't be finalists. I mean, Mike Shildt, the fact that the Cardinals were not like everybody's favorite to win the division. Some people had the Cubs, some people had the Brewers. That's definitely going to help. They had a nice second half. Brian Snitker won the division with the Atlanta Braves when the Phillies went out and got Bryce Harper. The Mets went out to try to get moves like Edwin Diaz and Cano and all these guys, and they stayed strong and continued to play really well in that East. But for me, I think this will go to Craig Counsell, or I think my pick would be Craig Counsell. The reason is because, yes, the Brewers have Christian Yelich. Obviously, Christian Yelich, we're going to talk about him later on in this video, of course, but the Brewers played their best baseball after Christian Yelich got hurt. They finished the season super strong. Unfortunately for them, they didn't win the wild card game against the Nationals, which they could have very easily won if there was a play made in right field. But at the end of the day, the fact that they were able to make that really, really strong run at the end of the season after their MVP was hurt just goes to show the amount of confidence Craig Counsell has in his guys. They didn't give up, and I think he brings that attitude. If it was for me, I would go with Craig Counsell here, but once again, there's cases to be made for all three. So now let's jump into the Cy Young Award. We're going to start it off with the National League. The three finalists: Jacob deGrom from the New York Mets, Hyun-Jin Ryu from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Max Scherzer from the World Series champions Washington Nationals. I think at the beginning of the year, and really through like the first half of the year maybe, I think Hyun-Jin Ryu was kind of the favorite. He started to fade off a little bit. Doesn't mean he pitched bad by any means, but I don't think he's the favorite to win it anymore. This one to me is between Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer had a 2.92 ERA in 172 innings pitched. He struck out 243 batters. He led the league in strikeouts per 9. He also led the league at fielding independent pitching, and Max Scherzer had another really good season under his belt. And then Jacob deGrom, the former Cy Young winner in 2018, came back for another strong season with a 2.43 ERA in over 200 innings pitched. He led the league in strikeouts with 255. He had a 0.8 home runs per 9. He walked less than 2 batters per game. He had a whip underneath 1. And for me, I think I would go with Jacob deGrom to go back-to-back for the Cy Young here, because I think the fact that he had a lower ERA in more innings pitched, Max Scherzer had him in strikeouts, or at least Jacob deGrom had more strikeouts, but it was also like 35-ish more innings pitched or something like that. But I think the fact that Jacob deGrom has a lower ERA and a lower earned run total in more innings than Max Scherzer, for me, I gotta go with Jacob deGrom. I think we're gonna see a back-to-back Cy Young winner here. Now let's move it over to the American League side of things, where the three AL Cy Young finalists are Garrett Cole from the Houston Astros, Justin Verlander from the Houston Astros, and Charlie Morton from the Tampa Bay Rays. Isn't it crazy to think that all three of these guys could have been on the same team? Or they were on the same team? That's ridiculous. While Charlie Morton had a great season of 3.05 ERA and almost 200 innings pitched, he struck out 240 batters. This one to me is definitely between the two Astros, Cole and Verlander. Garrett Cole had a 2.50 ERA in 212 innings pitched. He struck out 326 batters, led the league there. He led the league in strikeouts per 9, fielding independent pitching, ERA plus. Justin Verlander, on the other hand, led the American League in wins, which is not, of course, a very good stat when determining the value of a pitcher, but still, he led the league in something. He had a 2.58 ERA, which was only 8 points lower, or 8 points higher than Garrett Cole. He had 223 innings pitched, led the league there. He struck out 300 batters for the first time in his career. It's kind of crazy to think that Verlander had never struck out 300 batters before. He led the league in whip, he led the league in hits per 9, and he led the league in a strikeouts per walk ratio. So you could really flip a coin between Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander and say whichever one lands here would be the Cy Young, and it wouldn't matter. But for me, I would probably go with Garrett Cole. He had more strikeouts in less innings pitched. He had a lower ERA, just barely, but low enough. He had a very similar whip. He led the league in ERA plus, strikeouts per 9. I gotta go with Garrett Cole, but like I said, you could pretty much flip a coin between these guys and they'd both be deserving. So I'm gonna go with Cole. That's my pick. So now we're going to jump into the big one, the MVP Awards. We're going to start it off in the American League. The three finalists: Mike Trout of the Angels, Alex Bregman of the Astros, and Marcus Semien of the Oakland Athletics, all American League West teams. Now, you got to give credit to Marcus Semien. He had a very good year. He had a better year than DJ LeMahieu, just saying. But to be fair, I really don't think Marcus Semien will beat out either Bregman or Trout, whichever one of those two wins the MVP. Like, Semien's going to finish third, but you got to give him some love. He had a great season for the Oakland A's. I had Matt Chapman as kind of a dark horse MVP candidate, and while he still had a good year, Marcus Semien, he overshadowed him. But let's talk about Mike Trout versus Alex Bregman, because that's literally what this is going to come down to. These two guys, which one is going to take the title? So let's take a look at Bregman first, okay? He had a 296 average, a 423 on base, a 592 slugging, and an OPS over 1,000, 41 home runs, 37 doubles, 112 runs batted in, 119 walks, which led the American League, which is really good. And you got to go ahead and take a look at Mike Trout. For the 2019 season, Mike Trout hit 291 with a 438 on base, a 645 slugging, an OPS at 1.083, 45 home runs, 104 runs batted in. He won a Silver Slugger. Yes, Mike Trout was injured for roughly the last month of the season, but still, he was qualified in all the major categories, and he led the league in on-base, slugging, and OPS. Now, yes, I am an Angels fan, but at the end of the day, there's no Angels bias when it comes to picking an MVP. At the end of the day, it comes down to the numbers. How did one person stack up against the other? And in my opinion, I do think Mike Trout had the better season, and I think Mike Trout wins the American League MVP. If Mike Trout was on the Oakland A's and he put up the same numbers, Mike Trout would still be my pick. It doesn't matter what team he's on. I think he just had a better season than Alex Bregman, and Mike Trout, in my opinion, is the American League MVP. Now, the final award we're going to talk about is the MVP for the National League. The three finalists: Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers, Anthony Rendon of the Washington Nationals, and Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers. Christian Yelich is the reigning 2018 MVP. He came back and put together a stellar 2019. He was injured for the last month of the season, which kind of sucked for him. Cody Bellinger had one of the best months of April I've ever seen. The dude hit like 400 something. It was 430s, 450s, something like that, something crazy. And Anthony Rendon continued to be one of the most underrated players in all of baseball throughout all of 2019. I think his name is finally getting out there because of the World Series win, but if you're a baseball fan, you know how good Anthony Rendon is, and I'm so happy that he's finally getting some of the spotlight he deserves. So let's go ahead and take a look at all three of them. Let's start it off with Cody Bellinger. The dude hit 305 with a 406 on base, a 629 slugging, and an OPS at 1.035. He played in 156 games, which is really, really strong. He had 47 home runs, 115 runs batted in, and 34 doubles. So now let's move it over to Anthony Rendon of the Washington Nationals. He hit 319 with a 412 on base, a 598 slugging, a OPS over 1,000. He had 34 home runs, 44 doubles. He actually led the National League in that, and he led the National League in runs batted in, also bringing with him a 6.3 WAR for the entire season. And last but not least, Christian Yelich. He hit 329 with a 429 on base, a 671 slugging, and an OPS at 1,100, which I believe led the entire major leagues, not just the National League. 44 home runs, 97 RBIs, and he did that in only 130 games. So he was putting up very similar numbers, maybe even better numbers than some of these other guys in less games played. For me, you really can't go wrong with any of these candidates, but at the end of the day, I am going to give it to Christian Yelich. I do think Yelich was the most valuable player in the National League. A 329 average, a 429 OPS, I'm sorry, a 429 on base, a 671 slugging, and an 1,100 OPS. He led the National League in all four of those major categories. Like, the dude was hitting the seams off the ball. Yes, there's the case to be made that he didn't play the last month of the season and maybe those numbers would have gone down. I doubt it, but still, that's all, speculation. Yes, you can give credit to Cody Bellinger's defense. Yes, you can give credit to Anthony Rendon's ability to drive in runs with guys on base. At the end of the day, you can make cases for all three of them. I just think with leading the league in all four of the major hitting categories of average, on-base, slugging, and OPS, I really think Christian Yelich is the guy. I think he absolutely just destroyed the ball this year. He picked up right where he left off from his 2018 season, and I give it to Christian Yelich. So those are my picks for the 2019 MLB Awards. If you guys have any disagreements, which I know you will, feel free to leave those down in the comments. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with more of these baseball videos, as well as all the other videos I have coming out. I would appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.